What we found was one of the biggest barriers, which I know we've kind of talked a bit about today, is communication. And never mind location, it's communication. Thank you so much. And what we found was that, we all learn differently, we all hear things differently. You're sat in a room of however many people, all of you will take something different from today, you will have heard it slightly differently, you will interpret it through your own experience, those sorts of things. So what we set up, as a head of service, I used to stand on a Monday morning, 10 o'clock for 15-ish minutes and talk to the staff. It was called catch-up. In my head, it was called Monday's Moans and Groans. Because it was either, to begin with, it was things about, it's too hot, it's too cold, too many windows, not enough chairs, all those sorts of things. Because by now, we'd moved everybody into the new environment. So the catch-up then progressed into other people doing the catch-up. So they might have a story that they wanted to tell, they might be being sponsored to do a fun run. Children's services staff spend their life raising money for children. Having worked all day for children, they then run ridiculous amounts of miles to kind of raise money more for children. So we did a lot about that. We also had updates from other organisations. If the police had a specific investigation going on that they needed help with, they would pop in and explain this to us, because we're out there in the community, we see things that are changing, those sorts of things. So it kind of gave us different things. It just gave us a chance to sit down. If we had compliments, I would make sure I told the service about the compliments. The staff who had got personally these compliments would never let me tell them by name. So I always used to say, somebody in the room, and I used to go and stand behind them. Not pointing, just stand behind them and walk away. So they kind of got a picture of it in the end, because we were trying to encourage that positive approach. The job is really hard, but there's lots of really positive things that you're doing. I also had a broken record approach. So I had a broken record of what we were doing, how we were doing, why we were doing, to members, to politicians, those sorts of things. Different ones internally, different ones externally, and different ones to staff. You have to stick to your message. Whatever that message is, you have to be consistent, because if you move too much at once, it gets really complicated for people. I was also lucky enough to get a young man called Scott King. Anybody heard about Scott King? He's a young man who had what can only be described as a dreadful time as a looked after child, not in Monmouthshire, and he was able to tell his story. And because I wanted, my social workers knew what it was like. They worked in this all the time. They came, but I made sure the chief exec went, I made sure members went, I made sure finance attended, I made sure transport attended, HR, IT, whoever I could get there to listen to. You're helping us, because part of our barriers were HR, were finance, were IT. And I tried to get them to understand that it's about Scott King, or whoever it is in Monmouthshire who is Scott King. And it's about delivering services. So if we've got delays here because HR haven't sent the letters out for recruitment, or it takes 8 weeks to get a mobile phone and all the rest of it, that has an impact on those people. And members found that really helpful. And there was a lot of people crying by the end of it, and that wasn't how I hoped it would go, but people were very upset. I found myself handing tissues out. It was terrible. But they really got a lot from it. As I said,